glad you did.
So I can follow up.
Now, hey, if you guys have time, I'll talk to you about that. Okay?
Please.
Yeah, all right. Is everybody ready?
Give me a second, I'm not ready.
And
Now we're waiting on Coach.
this is why we can't have nice.
Gonna have all this technology.
I love
I'm
technology.
just waiting, just gathering enough intelligence and we're training using 10 tablets through computers.
All right, we're gonna have real debates now. Is everyone ready? All right. So when was the harm school of America's still supporting death squads body 15? School of America's responsible for training since 4,000 South American soldiers living in becoming short torturers and murderers and death squads. So was the big space for destabilization in Latin America. So relocated Fort Benning, Georgia, in Winston in 2001, allowing for impaired termination of previous program to dissociation. Reality, Holland, Winston retained Soul Foundation to his Department of Defense Society to shield the institute from criticism and outcry regarding the school's historical to human rights violations since 2000. Named the sole of the crimes with the sole graduates have come to light. Out of 25 Colombian graduates from 2001 to 2003, 12 had either been charged with serious crime commanded and some members had reported committed multiple extrajudicial killings, disassociation with the school's history and religion and so is Miria. Purpose for distancing the institution from the atrocities committed by its students and graduates. History, however, tells a different story. While Winston continues to emphasize what describes a commitment to human rights by citing Miria hours of instruction on specific researchers and reporting Colombia's extrajudicial killings reveals a reality that goes beyond the cosmetic reforms supported by the institution. Some point to is the inherency. Congress has struck their feet on the closure, and the FBI is actively investigating the anti-solo movement. McCoskey and Sister in 15. The American Civil Liberties Union released document showing the Federal Bureau of Investigation initiated counterterrorism investigations to Washington Human Rights Organization coordinated anti-solo activities and also increased its surveillance priority level from the rapid growth of the movement. Did you say sweet?
Yeah.
Okay. More frustrating to the movement is recalculations of Congress to continue on women's congressional representatives to cut the school's funding. This pushed activists to rethink their strategy and not abandon legislative efforts to close the school. Movement leaders are now taking their message directly to a new generation of Latin American heads of state, requesting these officials no longer send soldiers to Solo Winsec, thus the plan. The United States federal government, through an act of Congress, should permanently suspend operation of Winsec and its training network and prohibit the establishment of any school in its place. Implementation enforcement through Secretary of the Army. Subpoint 3, solvency. Suspension Winsec closes down from its future military education from government 14. Suspend the authority of the Western Hemisphere Institute of Security Cooperation, Institution, United States Army School of the Americas. Secretary of the Army serves within the Operation Western Hemisphere Institute of Security Cooperation. Authority of Secretary of Defense Operating Education Training Facility, Section 2166, Title 10 U.S. Code of suspended a limitation on the establishment of new education and training facility. No training or education facility may be established in the Department of Defense for Latin American military personnel as a successor United States Army School of the Americas. The Western Hemisphere Institute of Security Cooperation. Subpoint 4. Southcom's role includes training of regional military leaders at WINSEC 1016. To enhance professional development of the region's military officers and enlisted leaders, U.S. and the command conducts and facilitates international military training, education, military and defense exchange, and security seminars. These programs upload accountable, transparent, and enforce ensure the sustainability of U.S. security cooperation investments at defense institutes like WINSEC. Subpoint 5. WINSEC rotates training between the school and Fort Benning training facilities physically located in Latin America. Stage Peace, Title 14. Although students still come to Fort, the troops on training missions have been rotating on Fort Benning for training forces inside Honduras. Although students still come to Fort Benning, the new model training relies on a heavily dosed in-country training of military and security forces. Full rebooted school America's model deploys troops on global training missions. Advantage 1. U.S. imperialism. Closing WINSEC forces the U.S. to recognize accountability for imperial operations in Latin America. McCoskey and Cessor 15. And what can the struggle to close the institution tell us about the government's effort to package U.S. imperialism for domestic and foreign consumption? The controversy represents the battle of collective memory. There is a struggle over how the legacy of the schools of the Americas and broader history of 20th century U.S. intervention into Latin America understood in the United States. The U.S. has not experienced pure national soul searching about its involvement in the dirty wars of U.S. policymakers. The concept of human rights and theoretical lingo from which associated probably less the United States and others abroad. The controversy of so its clone, the WINSEC, is a struggle over beliefs about the intrinsic benevolence of U.S. power and the strength of those beliefs to remain unexamined except as good. Subpoint 2 is that an ethic of accountability is the only way to solve for U.S. imperialism. Roy in 06. How can this instrumental relationship between responsibility and private challenge be formulated? 5 acts just 2 ways, each with implications for philosophy of practice. First, to recast responsibility, accountability, and performance responsibility in following ways. All action undertaken responsible, call sponsor, not involves only where sponsor isn't given an answer to, but also the related situation of answer to is being responsible for naming, being answering for. Pedagogy, global responsibility, constantly articulate the duty to intervene. It must also insist on accountability and answer to those who are the objects of responsibility in time of empires. Not enough to be responsible is also necessary to be accountable. Subpoint 3. Although the school claims to reform the curriculum, the fact that the school remains open sends a signal that the U.S. condones abuses in the name of imperialism. Equipment 08. The school continues to servicing because they've been taught to millions and likely put these skills to horrific use these days. Most of the students from Colombian Army chose a polymer killings. School continues training individuals of human rights violations. There has been no accountability in the U.S. for the atrocities. Those in room taught from these manuals face no disciplinary action with no acknowledgments by the Army of wrongdoing. The failure of the U.S. Army to hold anyone accountable sends a signal to other military that violations of human rights is acceptable. Subpoint 4. U.S. imperialism creates a violent global police state which normalizes endless cycles of racism, patriarchy, justifies sexual violence. While haunting 06, the U.S. Imperial Project calls for civilian brown and black men rescuing the women outside the border, same state engaged in killing, imprisoning, criminalizing black and brown and non-Muslim peoples within its own borders. The effects of this conjoined economic military policy, the U.S. imperial state represents an alarming increase of violence against women, children, and communities bearing the brunt of U.S. military dominance around the world, and U.S. policies clearly target foreign immigrant communities. The code of gendered sexualized and racialized culture, militarism, surveillance is buttressed by hegemonic culture, consumption, neoliberal conservatism. Subpoint 5. U.S. imperialism leads warfare in everyday life and props up cultural hegemonic system of domination only by focusing on the structural violence of these systems could be reorient the political away from the great imperialism. Cuomo 9060. Omnipresence of militarism justifies the destruction of natural non-human needs of communities during peacetime. Ethical approaches not intended which the ways warfare are woven into everyday life lead to crisis-based politics and analysis. Crisis-based politics are distracting to the needs of sustained resistance to a mesh systems of domination. The omnipresence of militarism amounts to the false belief that the absence of declared armed conflicts is peace, particularly easy for those shaped by privilege. Resistance is immobilized when real violence finally occurs. At that point, difficult not to respond in ways to make resistors drop all the political parties, crisis-driven tension, keep resistors persuasive. Seeing wars and better draws attention to the fact that violence is happening all over. Subpoint 6. Before they question our method of working within the state to reform it, research proves compared to better gospel 92. The left has to work against the bureaucratic system of government's most effective struggle is accomplished by globalizing popular pressure on governmental institutions of the media and structured by which power is actively realized. It's often by direct and opposition against specific institutions, power can be challenged. Subpoint 7. The state is the most influential actor in international politics. Individuals identified with the state will accept other actors carry on. 2K. The state must continue to serve as an indispensable actor because the largest entity which people can identify themselves with continues to be the state. Far can be seen in the future will be no change in this regard, even in the case of private organizations. The state is the actor must create the new rules they advocate in areas such as human rights, humanitarian issues, and the environment. And subpoint 8. Failure to engage with the state creates vacuums will be filled by violent leads. Cooking 92. Deconstruction of the material rootings creates a political void, no social repower. Deconstruct steps and steps from this power and is possessed to those dying, dehumanized, and brutalized by violence. Power hardly seems a matter of illegitimate theoretical privileging. Vision and political struggle do not accompany critique. The void will be filled by the powerful. I'll go ahead and open myself up to cross.
Alright, so,
Are you ready for time, or just?
No, I'm ready.
Okay.
Totally forgot. I was thinking those last 3 parts are important. Ready?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. So, what about, so first, on your solvency card from Government 13, are you advocating for what your solvency card is saying?
I'm advocating for my plan text.
So what's the solvency card for?
Solvency card is an advocate who would advocate portions as the affirmative. I have a right to parametricize down to topical portions of my advocate.
So if I can prove that your advocate is actually saying what you are saying it's saying, would this be a reason to go for the negative?
No, because you're probably going to run an argument that talks about this study. However, my analysis would be that I'm parametricizing down to the topical portions of the affirmative,
cool.
and that is my right as the affirmative.
Okay, cool. Next, you say that you're trying to solve for U.S. legitimacy. You're trying to solve for U.S. legitimacy through like using.
Where do I say anything about legitimacy?
Might be the wrong card. What's IMET?
IMET?
Yeah.
That is International Military and Educational Training.
What's it for?
Training people, as in the name. It says train in the name. I
So
assume
what
it's
is
for training. Trains people.
Cool.
Yeah, you're gonna probably. I know you're gonna make some argument about
Yep.
IMET. WINSEC is key.
So
to
what
IMET.
about Honduras?
I literally read the Stottle card you're about to read in your 1 and C.
Okay, cool. Is that? Okay, it is. So you're closing stuff, right?
Yep.
So would you say this is saving money and increasing the military budget?
No, I would say that like you can argue it's saving money, but I think my analysis would be that like imperialism is probably a little bit more important than giving the government a little bit more money.
No, but like you're closing these schools, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I'm not going to try to tell you I'm fiating where the money's going to go. You can make a normal means argument or something if you want to have that debate.
How much time do I have?
Minute 15.
Cool.
Not going to ask me about lily pads?
I already did.
Okay.
So how can we recognize U.S. as imperial actions when we're when we're already secretly overthrowing governments? Not in Venezuela, in other places like Ukraine. And actually Venezuela in 2002.
I would say my Murkowski and Susser evidence specifies that the school is a unique symbol of U.S. imperialism, and this forces the government policy, literally says it's a battle over collective memory, and that it forces U.S. policymakers to start wrangling with the question if U.S. imperialism and hegemony, these things that just seem to be accepted as benevolent and good, are true. They kind of forces the policymakers to have this quote-unquote come to Jesus moment with, maybe imperialism is a bad thing.
So imperialism is a bad thing.
Yeah, that's advantage one.
Cool. Is AIDS a bad thing?
Is AIDS a bad thing? That depends. Some people have a thing where they want to specifically contract AIDS and give it to people. That's a thing.
So
I'm not going to kink shame.
What about the 237 others?
Close those. Plan in the plan text.
Awesome. is about as messed up as about as organized as my life, so not very much. I'm gonna start prep.
Yeah. Timing your own prep, right?
Yeah.
No worries.
Do you want me to send this? Because like I'm basically making a tee up from 3 different files, so it's kind of hard to send.
That would be nice. I sent you my doc before your speech. I would appreciate reciprocity.
Okay. Because that means I have to put this tee to a file. I'm not do that.
I mean, again, reciprocity. I would create a speech doc too.
Okay. I can't send the tee because it's not made. Oh well. Yeah, I can't send you the tee because of how many files it's in.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I mean, if you can give it to me in some way, as long as you can get me a copy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have to send me 3 files, we can do that. I just,
Can I use my computer?
what?
Can I use my computer?
If you want.
Cool.
I mean, that's an option. I mean, I would just prefer to have a file in front of me like I gave to you.
It would take me like 5 minutes to get all of them.
Okay.
It's up to you. You'll
If
see.
you can just paste me the interp. Can you just give me the interp and any like the carded violation?
It's all, there's no cards to it.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna go the easy way.
Are you giving it to me on a tablet, or are you emailing and the computer? What are we doing?
You guys want the source citations? I can- And the topicality is all like contextual, there's no cards to it. Starting time now. The interpretation is seven.
Okay, you asked me if I was ready.
Sorry, really? Yeah. How many off?
Yeah, how many off?
That's a good idea. 1, 2, 3 off, and there's gonna be like a rather, not that large, semi-large solvency sheet.
Okay.
3 off. Good. The interpretation is substantial reduction in Southern Command's role should alter either where or how the Southern Command operates. Be the violation post-plan, Southern Command is not operationally effective with regard to where or how nothing has substantially changed. Sees the first limit. There's an infinite number of potential plans, so it is necessary to limit these to topical plans to prove the resolution true. Plan interpretation is better for limit because it limits the affirmative topical to topically substantial plans. Bright line. Secondly, bright line. Clear distinction of topicality allows for better case construction and allows for objective judgment on issues of topicality. This is internal and different. Plan interpretation is better for bright line because it clarifies exactly what the affirmative needs to do to be topical. Third is depth of a breadth. Evading a small number of issues forces deeper issues into topical literature. LD is uniquely structured to empower detailed analysis of top policy issues. This is the internal education. My interpretation is better for depth of a breadth because it forces affirmative plans to be substantial enough to support deep analysis. These are the voters' first rules. NFA LD rules state that the stock issue debate, the affirmative must meet the burdens of all 4 stock issues to receive ballot, one of which is being topical. Second is fairness and incentive to recite the debate, and enforcing topicality must enforcing the topicality of affirmation case is key to this. Third is education. The greatest tangible benefit of this event is for debaters is the opportunity to research and discuss the LD topic by allowing a topical affirmative to win. The benefit is mooted. If my research is topical and the affirmative isn't, then our argument pass like ships of the night and we gain no novel analysis in the round. On to the first disadvantage of lily pads. First, closing large bases like these training facilities frees up funding for small covert sites like called lily pads. David Vine, 15. Planners want bases free of the kinds of restriction the military faced during the Iraq-Israel wars in the 1970s. The Pentagon is increasingly turning small covert sites scattered across the globe, referring to simply as the lily pad. The attractiveness of the shift from large bases to smaller ones is clearly than the lower costs involved. Most are located in countries easily influenced by the economic and political chaos promised by bases and labor and other operating costs are lower for countries. Less stringent environmental regulations will also make them operations cheaper and easier. The second is transition to lily pads cements U.S. control over the planet and causes endless intervention. This turns Volume 12. Military planners want to be able to turn to other conveniently close countries that the United States is ever prevented from using bases or was by Turkey prior to the invasion of Iraq. Officials dream of nearly limitless flexibility, the ability to react to developments anywhere on Earth, something approaching total military control over the planet. Washington is planning to use lily pad bases and other military projects to bind countries in Latin America as closely as possible to the U.S. military. To continue U.S. political economic hegemony, American officials are hoping the military might will entrench their influence and keep as many countries as possible within the American orbit at a time where some are asserting their independence ever more forcefully or gravitating towards China and other rising powers. Crossed by literally all of Justin's articulation about how U.S. imperialism is bad. Third, next disadvantage is Russia backfill. AZ is first Russia seeking to create Latin American conflict. Blank 14. Russia seeks bases from which it can threaten the U.S. and demonstrate power protection capabilities. Its efforts attempt to create conflict with Latin America. Russia's goal is the deliberate and substantial worsening of East-West relations of Latin American problems. Second is U.S.-Latin American relations depend on cooperation and check Russian aggression. Blank 9. Russian interest in gaining a position in Latin America has become possible by declining U.S. power. Latin Americans prefer the U.S. based on its acceptance of their needs and interests. Linked first, plan decreasing engagement with Latin America, breaking coalition. Blank 14. The U.S. cannot take Latin America for granted. It must perceive the success and disengagement if it wants multilateral coalitions on issues of regional significance. We must increase our military cooperation and advisory training programs with these governments. This also applies to cooperation on police issues like counter-narcotics. Second, plan reduces U.S. President triggers Latin America posture towards Russia. Circular 16. Latin America's shift towards Russia is due to the relevant inactivity or lack of interest by American policymakers in the region. Latin America has received mixed messages from the U.S. and its leadership internally. First, Russia will increase their counter-narcotic influence in the region. Bargain 13. Russia is to set up counter-narcotic operations in Latin America to increase its influence in the region. Russia announced plans to work with Latin American countries and join unified task force, joint counter-narcotic operations, helping develop common anti-drug policies. Nicaragua, Russia is setting up an anti-drug training center. It also announced plans to increase cooperation with Peru. Russia attempts to increase its influence in Latin America to bypass U.S. dominance. Secondly, Russia establishes new drug gulags, HIV infection, proliferate. Paul 16. Western governments understand that managing drug use understand that managing drug use is far less destructive than fighting to eradicate it. Russia refuses to accept this. Viktor Ivan, director of the Federal Drug Control Service, outlined proposals to near Soviet-era labor camps to rehabilitate drug addicts. Moscow's tendency to link drug addiction with criminality further exacerbates the problem and has caused HIV infection to increase from 117,000 to 1.2 million over the past decade. Russia's influence has led to the country's export these policies with similar effectiveness. Third, Russia detonates Latin American arms race, arming violent non-state actors. Blank 14. Moscow's arms sales are the most dangerous of its policies in Latin America. Moscow seeks an arms race. Brazilian reports have raised the specter of Venezuela detonating a continental arms race. These weapons migrate from Venezuela to the far Russia. Arms will underwrite armed insurgencies and drug running. Fourth is destroying U.S.-Latin American relations will increase risk of nuclear proliferation. The partner of American conditions 08. If the hemispheric partnership remains elusive, the cost of the United States and its neighbors will be high. Without proper safeguards, the risk of nuclear proliferation will increase. Impacts. First, HIV and AIDS will spread globally, causing human extinction. Mauricio 2000. AIDS is the most serious threat to humankind. There's no cure yet, and we were watching ghostly skeletons finally succumb to the most excruciating, dehumanizing death. The AIDS challenge is a fundamentally one that is threatened to wipe out humanity. Second, nuclear proliferation results in nuclear war. Growing 15. The greatest threat proposed the sector of nuclear weapons is that probability that there will be catastrophic nuclear war. The state with the nuclear advantage might believe it has a splendid first strike capability. The state with a small and vulnerable nuclear arsenal might decide that the strike first rather than risk having its entire nuclear arsenal destroyed. One state might say a nuclear war in the brief that war is inevitable and that it would be better to go first than to go second. On case, first on solvency. First on solvency, little is doubling the WINSEC is the most informed military institution of the other 237 training schools perpetually imperialism. WEX 2015, there are 238 institutions of the United States that train Latin American soldiers over thousands of courses and tens of thousands of students. There's no overarching requirement for human rights training, given that no other school in the military system has been targeted by an NGO. The changes affecting the SOA are clearly explained by these efforts of the SOAW. Skip the next card and the card after that. Onto the subpoint D is your plan doesn't actually hold anyone accountable, so you can actually solve for wait, that's the wrong one. Oh yeah, like you can't hold anyone accountable for ethics at the point where you don't solve for legitimacy. Wickens 16. In order to create a real change, we can't rely on politicians to make it happen for us. So national organizer Hendrik Voss told Daily Kos in an email statement, we have to organize to build broad-based grassroots power and hold those who are making decisions that affect our lives accountable. The little E is that the next point is that the foreign military training to all U.S. military schools is funded by International Military Education Training IMET program. Is as long as IMET exists, schools like WINSEC will stay open. You have their Solvency School of America Watch 2006 fiscal year 2000. The United States distributed almost $50 million in military training funding to the International Military Education Training IMET, with 9.8 million or 18% all allocated to the Western Hemisphere. The funding trained 2,684 soldiers from Latin countries. Most soldiers who attended WINSEC do feel funded through IMET. Next is case in Honduras operates a satellite campus where training will continue the plan. Nothing other than basic pivotal to bilateral training exercises. Over the oh wait, yeah, you read that part now. I'm done.
Ready for cross?
Yep.
All right. What's an example of a topical app under your interpretation?
Directly affecting how and where.
Yeah. Give me a plain text.
And your counter operations.
Okay. So only one app is topical under your interpretation.
No, you only ask one example.
Okay, can you give me a case list of what would be topical under your interpretation?
Basically, any counter, any office, or Southern Command operations that they're doing in Latin America.
Let's move on here. Let's talk about lily pads. What's the uniqueness on the lily pads argument? Like, where do you gain the uniqueness? Like, why is this already happening?
It's within the first card, the fact that they're trying to get they want to put as many of these bases at where they want to put bases wherever they can.
Sure, but don't they want to do that now in the SQO? Don't they want to do that now in SQO?
They're not funding. And they can't do that because of these bases are open. Basically what happens is you can't.
Sure, where do you read a card that says that I provide more funding?
End of bases.
Okay, well.
You said to make a normal argument about this.
Yeah, but where do you read a card that says that?
Those two right there.
Okay, where do you read? Anyway, we'll move on. There's being obtuse. On the disadvantage, on Russia backfill. So what's been Russia doing the past 2 years?
Trying to piss off the United States.
Sure. Why hasn't your impacts happened?
Because the United States is still in Latin America and they're still like affecting Latin America. Aside that, training their troops.
Sure. Okay, so why does Russia uniquely benefit Latin America?
I'm dealing with the impacts of the fact we're like a massively increased.
Sure. Where do you read any comparison between Russian imperialism and US imperialism to garner that it's net worse?
That should be the entire thing.
Okay, sure, so
What do you mean by that?
Well, never mind, we'll move on. Are you saying on the McGovern solvency takeout, are you saying the app doesn't have the right to parametricize down to the topical implementation of the solvency
I didn't read
advocate?
that one.
What?
I didn't read that one.
You didn't? Okay, that's fun.
I didn't read that. I didn't read the little B and the little C.
We'll see, alright. So explain to me, okay, so where is IMET training done?
In the United States. Oh, I'm
What
at training.
schools?
I mean, like literally everywhere. Basically, IMET funds people to go to these military education.
Okay, so and also, do other trainings other than IMET occur at WinSec?
Yes, but they also occur at
Okay,
other schools.
so where else besides WinSec, besides the schools that are part of WinSec's training network, the 238 you identified that I closed in my plan text, where does IMET occur?
All of them.
At all 239 schools? It's
Including
basically
WinSec, a scholarship program.
okay.
So yeah,
So if they don't have a school to go to, where do the scholarships go?
that's more money for lily pads.
Alright, no further questions here. I'm gonna take prep. Can I see the t-shirt real quick, just so I can reread the just make sure I have the wording right. Stopping for 24 seconds left. The order is going to be T, case, lily pads, rusher backfill. First going to be the IME, substantially affect where the Southcom limits are operates. You can extend across the slot of 14 evidence that indicates that we actually affect how WinTech operates in Latin America. But next, you can extend across the 10 evidence that IME that we did directly reduce Southcom. But next argument is going to be interpretation of the substantial definition from Gludi 11. Substance that which lies beneath substance originally used in the do assign substantial that lies beneath that is essential, making something what it is. Cut the card there. Next is going to be IME man interpretation. Closing WinTech is a huge stand in the legacy of Southern Command's role in Latin America. Imposing is a major significant action, essential part of the topic. 3 is term limits excluded or innately subjective process, objectifying rules of literature agency. Vector 3, approaching the political and rules of agency required towards follows levels of analysis, and they contradict each other's logic. We will strive for universal reference, supposed to subsume all aspects of life under a totalizing standpoint. Every process for villain is at the same time a process considering the most convincing position cannot apply insight that does not conceal the perspectives. Cut the card there. Next argument is going to be go to the reasonability decision rule. The analysis is going to be here that by if the affirmatives mean a reasonable interpretation of the topic, making a reasonable attempt to limit the role of Southcom in Latin America, you don't vote us down. Stands predictability arguments of running to the restriction U.S. training Latin American militaries. Additionally, predictability changes around opinion on the element out. Reasonability, stay stable, prefer reasonability topic sequence, royalty 5 some card and solvency should be considered topical. Go to the fairness voter. This is simply another instance of Paris trying to dictate his fairly the same way the U.S. set up democratic elections. Latin American overthrew governments that were not favorable to him and simply props up imperialist interests. But the next argument is going to be on education. One turn, top value over limits of affirmative creativity, which hurts portable skills, ability to think about feeding couple of alternative solutions, help build problem solving skills. Creativity is one skills key to critical thinking, means the T hurts our epistemological development. 2 is turn, the top value takes our educational focus away from policy making, civilization, simulation. I want to be specifically engaged as a citizen in the focus on policy making, creates the best education to a real world focus, which since education's terminal impact is probably going to turn this. But the next argument is turn my education, my opponent prescribes as a mean of extending colonialism, focusing on the affirmative is key to creating a better form of education. The critical questions of imperialism. 5. When did I create better education? I win the position. I win the debate. Mayo 14. Education serves as a mean of colonization. University, in many cases, watered down education gives the colonized illusion. Their education being on par with education in the tropical. It also forced the read the good left wins one on to inspire exists in the colonial center. Next argument is like the NFLD rules. If I'm meeting reasonability, you don't vote me down on NFLD rules. Let's go to the first dissad. First argument on dissad is this is going to be super non-unique. He doesn't read any card that uniquely indicates that like my plan is going to actually trigger this. However, the next argument I would make is even on his card, it's from 2015. Probably means they've already engaged in this basis. Means it's probably super non-unique. Next argument is probably going to be a no link when he doesn't actually redo any cards that say where the funding's going to go. He just assumes that like if the schools get eliminated, if there's going to be funding, means he doesn't read you any card on what the amount of funding is or give you any bright line for how much funding would trigger the dissad. Means you're never going to vote on this. Additionally, on the impact, U.S. imperialism makes all forms of conflict and extermination inevitable. Means you can extend the Guillermo Mohanty evidence is going to straight turn the dissad because without critically questioning imperialism through the 1AC means we're never going to be able to solve back for this. And the next argument is going to be turn the realism of the DAs just to disguise for the rule of the elites. This impacts the Mohanty evidence. Imperialism justifies racism and patriarchy that allows oppression and destruction. Swallow for the probability the state will balance the function of the preference, political elites, and social group. And analytic framework is built on elite calculations that besides the point that statecraft is not simply a function of the particular geostrategic risks and opportunities presented between biogam and environment. Statecraft is a consequence of elites' preference and perception of the external environment. Elites' preference and perceptions matter in the policy-making process. Next argument is go to the second DA. First is going to be super non-unique. Russia has already expanded the region, opened a training facility, should have triggered your impacts to Luka. January 28th, Putin established strong relations with the nation and the Bolivian Trade Alliance with the people of our Americas. The organization creating opposition United States by free trade agreement for the Americas, which has been seen by many as the Latin American, Caribbean countries to form American imperialism. Russians in large quantities weapons of Bolivian alliance nations. Russia sold more than 3,000 surface-to-air missiles to Latin American countries. Argentina's former president was one of the few world leaders to support Russia's aggression in Crimea. Russia has helped Argentina complete a third nuclear reactor part of upon Putin's forgiving Cuba, Soviet era, and performed naval drills with Venezuela, Nicaragua. In Nicaragua, the Russians have established a counter-narcotics training center that many of the states could eventually rival the United States' long-standing commitment to anti-drug operations in the region. Cut the card here. Next argument is going to be extend the 115 evidence where it says the SOA was the biggest base for destabilization in Latin America. Closing SOA 1 second is a key stabilization in Latin America, which solves your impacts. After turns outweighs the dissad. Next is going to be turn Russian engagement good for Latin America. Ellis, January 5th. Russia was forgiving 90% 35 billion outstanding debt. Cuba had run up. Putin participated in the annual BRICS summit in 4 days when he secured the organization neutrality on Russia's activities in the Ukraine. Russia will provide security for the future Nicaragua canal. Russia announced a 528 million sell 24 M170 helicopters Peru to be accompanied by the construction and maintenance facility. Cut the card here. Next argument is extend the critique of realism off of the first dissad. This is going to be a unique indictment of the epistemology of the dissad that indicates that like we shouldn't be focusing on these realism policies because we need to stop the forms of imperialism occurring. When that happens, the Cuomo evidence also functions as a critique of realism. Is going to straight turn the dissad. Means you can pull that across because the Cuomo evidence says when we focus on crisis-based politics, we ignore the way that this warfare and this conflict that the DA speaks about is already engaged in our everyday life through U.S. imperialism. Means the only way to solve this is to engage in the critical questioning of the 1AC. Next argument is let's go to case proper. The first argument I want to make is he doesn't do a good enough job on these arguments. One, I want to say that I close all this on his first argument is I actually close all the schools. This doesn't answer any of his arguments. Literally in my plan text I say I close all the schools. Means you're never going to be able to prefer this argument. But the next argument is going to be the fact of the matter. The next argument is extend across this analysis that one he says that it's reformed, but extend across the Wadi 15 evidence. It says that the reform is simply a sham. Like we it's still exporting death squads means I'm still going to be ahead on the weeks question. And the next argument is I close all those schools means that you're still going to be preferring my evidence. On the next argument, he says that I don't hold anyone accountable, so I don't solve for legitimacy. However, my analysis is the McCoskey and Susser evidence does a great job of forcing policymakers to sort of have this come to Jesus moment where we say that we have to question U.S. imperialism, and literally talks about the process of closing the school as the trigger mechanism for that. Means that you're always going to be preferring it, and you're always going to pull across the solvency. But the next argument is he makes this. Did you read the case term?
No.
Okay. You can just go to the little e. He says that he tries to make this IMED argument. However, literally, my analysis is going to be that I close all schools and I prevent any school from opening. I literally take away the authority. Means that IMED is not going to have anywhere to send students. Means that IMED is effectually dead. Means that this turn never happens. He also doesn't read you any impact to the IMED dissat. All of these case arguments are defense at best. Means a risk of solvency through the McCoskey and Susser and Koopman evidence. Means that I solve imperialism and I straight turn both dissats and the T. Means that you are always voting for the affirmative because imperialism and the structural violence we have to focus on is key and the only thing we need to be focusing on in this round.
I don't think I have any cut left, so I'm gonna start.
Give me 1 sec.
But I guess we can do this evidence. Sense?
What's the order? I don't know what's going on.
T, Russia, Lily Pads.
So, sorry, say that one more time.
T, Russia, Lily Pads.
Okay.
You guys ready?
How do I get rid of the keyboard? Alright.
On to the first items of these skills. First, solicitation skills. Top value facilitates positive success in debates that develops important skills and fosters appreciation for multiple perspectives. Abandoning the topic proposed that in education, the McCartney benefits of debate. Luberg 10. Debate is a critical tool for civic deliberation. Debate includes skills for creativity and open-minded discussion of defeats. Debate invites interlocutors to think together and creatively in the context of discussion, the strategic iterations, moments of evaluation, and reiterations of arguments in the context of the structural public discussion. Debate creates a broader appreciation for the multiple perspectives on issues. Conclusions, especially powerful when one considers debate as a whole process of inventing, discussing, flowing, and reformulating arguments. In the process of researching, strategizing, debating, reforming stages, and switching sides on a question, students are provided with a framework for thinking about a problem and solutions for a number of angles. This cumulative effect for performing, and evaluating debate provides the widest possible exposure to varied positions a student might take. Second, constructive constraints. Absolute affirmative flexibility leaves the negative without meaningful ground to advance well-developed counter-arguments. Establishing boundaries is important because the spur of imagination and innovation, improving quality of debates. Thomas and Brown 11. Leaning should be viewed in terms of an environment where the context in which learning happens and the boundaries that define it in the students, teachers, and information within it all coexist and shape each other in a mutually reinforcing way. Boundaries serve not only as constraints but also as catalysts for innovation. Encountering boundaries spur the imagination to become more active in figuring out novel situations within the constraints of the context. Environments with well-defined and carefully constructed boundaries can be described as a set of pressure that nudge and guide change the subtraction for evolution. Impacts. First impact is education with loss without deviation. Even if the context of the affirmative is valuable, the process is not endorsed. I'm going to cut the card there. The first two cards were the ones that answer this turn. The fact that this outweighs the knowledge we gain from debating and actually having these T's is what outweighs the fact that apparently T's are imperialistic. That's not, yeah. The education is more important because the education is the way we actually deconstruct imperialism through debate is having this education, and T's helping use that education. Next, I want to go to the DA Russia, where he says. So his first argument is saying that Russia. First, I'm gonna obviously put on the later time. First, he said to extend the Omni Wadi 15 evidence. The problem with this is the disadvantage isn't about destabilization. The disadvantage is about Russia coming in. You can have a stable nation and still have countries come in. The fact is that when you have countries, when the United States is training people, and we stop training people, there still needs to be people trained. At that point, they're going to go to another nation. If anything, they would go to Russia. Next, he said that Russia engagement is good. All this is the fact that Russia is paying off people's debts. That doesn't change the fact that if you engage with Russia, you still have a chance of massively increasing the chance of getting AIDS, causing human extinction as the impacts went undropped, and causing nuclear proliferation, because the internal links and the impacts went drop on that, causing nuclear war. At that point, sure, they're paying off debt. Guess what? They're probably still all going to die. He said next he says extend the Kuma evidence to use imperialism and embeds the notion that war is the way of life and allows us to ignore structural violence that oppresses those without power. My first recommendation on the Kuma evidence is that actually I'm going to use this Kuma evidence. I'm going to use this Kuma evidence for in a minute when I get to the lily pads. Answer the turns. So everything from the Kumo evidence down to the rest of its answers on DA Russia, group that together, and let's talk about the lily pads for a second.
I didn't read those last three answers.
Did you?
No, I didn't read the cool and all that.
Oh, okay, cool. So let's talk about lily pads. Cool. So today you're going to be voting for the negative. Today you're going to be voting for the negative team because I will prove that at the end of this round, the affirmative will massively increase these lily pads, and that's going to cause massive problems, especially at the point where even he agrees that the United States' imperialism is bad and status quo. What that means is when these lily pads happen, they're either one, going to cause them to have no solvency, because there will still be U.S. imperialism, or two, make the world worse. Because keep in mind, these lily pads are actually cheaper. That means for the price of one large base, you'll have several smaller lily pads. First, let me answer the realism thing. He said the realism is the agent's disguise as for the rule of the imperialism. So first, you can actually weigh this the realism critique against his app for the lily pad DA. All of his arguments with imperialism is actually what these lily pad DAs are going to happen. This is more important, is looking at what the United States is doing. Essentially, these lily pads are bases the United States wants to put in other nations, so that when those nations don't want the United States there, they can secretly still be there. That's basically what the first card was saying. So he says that I don't listen to uniqueness or length. It's basically all in the first two cards, right? The uniqueness is that they want more of these bases, but they don't have enough funding. He closes 237 training bases. You can't tell me that when you close that many bases, there's not going to be an increase in funding. That's the uniqueness. That's the link right there. There's going to be an increase. Next, the impact of this is literally all of his imperialism impacts at that point. He's going to massively increase. He's ending IMAT. He's ending 238 military bases. At that point, you're going to be voting for this because he has either no solvency or he causes his impacts from these lily pads on a global scale. Yeah, like this. Even the realism DA, you can look at the fact, like the realism DA to this. You can look at the fact that this is literally what the United States is doing. This is why we need to talk about this. This is why we need to talk about these lily pads in these references, because this is what the United States is going and doing to other people right now. They're trying to get more money for that, which Implant gives them that money, which is why we need to talk about that. Yeah, my time.
I'll take mine 25 seconds of prep. Turn it back. So there's going to be T, case, Russia, lily pads. Is everybody ready?
On the T, he concedes that untopical means that all of these arguments he puts on there is simply just mitigation against my turns, but I'm not going for them in a world in which I'm topical, and when in a world in which I'm topical and none of his arguments ever function means there's no offense on the T full. Let's go to case. Extend across all case, he concedes 100% solvency on case. You can extend across the Koopman evidence and the McCoskey and Susser evidence that goes cold conceded the one in R that says like the school is a unique symbol of U.S. imperialism and enforces a unique come to Jesus moment. That's the McCoskey and Susser evidence under the advantage. When he cold concedes this, it means that I have 100% risk of solving it. I have 100% solvency on imperialism. If there's any less risk of the disad than there is my 100% solvency, basically, if there's any risk that I don't link to the disad, that's enough to vote AF because the AF will straight turn the disad at the point in which I solve for imperialism. So you can extend across that analysis, but let's go on to the Russian disad. He makes a lot of these arguments. He says the problem about the DAs and destabilization, you can extend it across the non-unique on the Russian disad that indicates that they've literally been already building bases, that they've already started training. They literally says that they opened a training facility in Nicaragua and the impacts are empirically denied. It means he's never going to get any offense off of this disad in a world in which my evidence post-dates is, and it literally says that what you're already talking about has already legit happened. No impact means you're never going to be prefer this, but you can also pull across the Cuomo evidence that's a straight turn in King of his realism. Literally, Cuomo says we need to avoid these crisis-based politics because it favors those in privilege because we assume that the absence of armed warfare is peace, but in reality we construe these every forms of everyday violence. This is going to be a straight turn in K that he fundamentally concedes means you can vote on this disad. But let's go to the lily pad disad. There's a lot of problems with this. He makes this argument that there's no solvency for U.S. imperialism, makes it worse. I say one, he drops the non-unique on the evidence, saying that when I non-unique his evidence and say one, you don't actually read me true uniqueness evidence, but two, even if you buy that his first card is uniqueness, I say in the one AR that because this card's like a year old, they probably already building these bases, which is probably going to be a good reason that the disad is empirically denied. But the next argument is he doesn't do enough work answering the no link argument. He doesn't get to just get up here and say that like you do the plan, you link. Like he needs to give you some specific analysis on the amount of funding that's going to go into it. He doesn't give you a bright line for how much funding is needed to be able to trigger these lily pad disads. Means that he's not going to be able to get access to it at a point at which we can't even figure out, and you as a judge can't even figure out how much my plan does before it triggers it. He simply says that like any decrease, but that's not going to be able to actually trigger it because he doesn't read you any form of evidence. LD is an evidence-based event. He only gives you this this weird link analysis means you're never going to be able to buy this argument. Don't buy his gut check argumentation, judge. You need to be voting on what's on the evidence. But the next argument is you can extend across the realism K. Fundamentally, it's his calculative nature of the disad that leads to this fundamental calculation that is the disguise for the rule of the elites. He drops the impact of the Mohanty evidence that imperialism justifies racism and patriarchy and allows the oppression and destruction. You can extend across the swirl of 4 evidence. He doesn't do enough job answering the warrants on. You can also extend the Cuomo evidence on here. Fundamentally, Judge, I have 100% solvency when he concedes that in the 1 in R. There's a risk of me not linking the disad means you vote AF.
I'm really glad I got this far, honestly.
Yeah, good job. I'm proud of you.